Welcome to FantasyBrainz, the podcast for fantasy football. Now, introducing your host, Hunter Slapdog Amaruso, and Matthew Scotty Holtmeyer.
Welcome in to another episode of the FantasyBrainz podcast. Today, we are going to be going over your guys' hot takes and debunking them, really analyzing whether or not these hot takes can actually come to fruition this season. And we got some spicy ones today, I cannot lie. With me, as always, is my partner, Charlie Chemers. Charlie, how you doing? 3 weeks away from the season here. You ready to talk some ball?
It's ramping up. I'm getting so excited. The best ball drafts are flying out my underdog and DraftKings. I'm ready to get into redraft season right now. I've got a ton of drafts coming up. Like, it feels like this upcoming weekend, I've probably got like 2 or 3 drafts. The weekend after that, it's jam-packed, a few drafts every weekend for the next couple weeks, because this is the time to start drafting. We're into the preseason. Season starts September 4th. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, 100%. This is the best season for draft is August. It's always going to be when everybody has their redrafts. And I'm very excited to talk about some of these hot takes today, because now we're starting to see, training camp, the preseason games, starting to see how these depth charts are really configuring. And we can really start to actually analyze how the season is going to look for a lot of these teams. So let's get straight into it. Like I said, we are going to be looking at your guys' hot takes. So these are all sent by followers of the FantasyBrainz podcast. We're going to start out with a pretty hot one of a new player who just got signed to a huge extension. And I say new player as in new player who just got traded. But DK Metcalf is going to be a top 12 wide receiver this year. I'll let you start on this one. What do you think about this?
This one's really exciting because DK Metcalf is in a great opportunity to see a huge target share. Whenever we see that opportunity, there's always cause for belief that they could be a top 12 wide receiver. Because if DK Metcalf is, seeing 25% of the targets in this Pittsburgh offense, it could genuinely be a good fantasy season. Now, top 12 though seems a little crazy because it's like I have wishful thinking for the Steelers, but at the end of the day, it's an older Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how this is going to mesh as well with Mike Tomlin and this whole offensive situation. They're usually a run heavy team, which means DK Metcalf might not even be getting the ball as much as we think he would be getting, under 25% target share, even if that is the case. So we'll see, but I really don't think that DK Metcalf will be a top 12 wide receiver by the end of 2025.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, he is the only wide receiver there, which I like.
Only target.
He's the only target. You have the tight ends and you have a couple other, I'm going to call them random receivers that don't actually provide any value to this offense, with Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson. But the question is, how many times are the Steelers going to throw the ball this year? Like, are they going to be a run first team with Jaylen Warren and Caleb Johnson, or are they going to let Rodgers air it out? And I feel like you bring in Aaron Rodgers, you're going to want to air the ball out. And considering there's no other weapons, I feel like we got to assume that Metcalf is going to get around a 23 to 25% target share. And so with those numbers and with his deep ball or deep threat ability, with Aaron Rodgers, deep ball ability, I think that this could be kind of a match made in heaven. And that's where I like the upside of him being in the top 12 is, can they connect on 4 to 5 40-plus yard touchdowns this year? Because DK Metcalf, one of the best, go route receivers in the NFL, and we all know what Rodgers can do when it comes to go routes. So I think it's going to be a lot about, does that chemistry really come together by, mid-season or the start of the season? And can DK actually produce at a high level? Because DK has gone down in production the last few seasons. And I think that's the biggest issue for me, is that he hasn't proven that even in Seattle, he could be a top 12 receiver since 2020, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, the dream is definitely the match made in heaven, like you're talking about, which is certainly plausible. It's just, I really don't want to get wrapped up into this belief that they're creating something at the end of Aaron Rodgers' career right now. Like, how much can he really handle in general, in an offense? How much is he going to have control over this offense? And DK Metcalf, you can ask the same question. He has always been the type of wide receiver where it's like, when is he going to get more? If he's so big and dominant and a really good wide receiver and worth the money, when is he going to actually get a legitimate share of an offense? This might be the year, or we could see them both fall on their face.
Right. And I think honestly, like Rodgers isn't ranked very highly. Like Metcalf, you're getting in the
They're both going
receiver,
really late. Yeah.
20 through 25 range. So you're drafting him as a low end wide receiver too. But Rodgers isn't even getting drafted for the most part. Maybe he's the second quarterback on, he's the quarterback 25, 26 on your team, and super flexy his value. But I
I
just,
like DK at ADP. Like,
yeah, I
when we're
agree.
talking about costs, like, I think we're totally fine with taking the bet on DK because he's a
Mhm.
guaranteed wide receiver one. Like, there's nobody in that range that has as many guaranteed targets as DK Metcalf has.
Right.
Other wide receivers like Zay Flowers around there, Jamison Williams is going there, Cortland Sutton, and those are guys that just genuinely could see targets go elsewhere in their offense.
Mhm.
But on a weekly basis, DK Metcalf is going to get his targets if he's on the field.
Yeah, he's in the price of like where all those wide receiver twos are, like add on Devonta Smith, Travis Hunter,
Yeah.
Xavier Worthy, like a bunch of receiver twos, George Pickens as well. So I like the value with DK Metcalf here. And the thing is, Rodgers always does produce good fantasy wide receivers. So the question is Rodgers gonna be any worse than he was last year? I don't
Yeah.
think so, because
Come
he was
on.
good.
Really?
He was good second half of the season. And the first half, you could
Yeah.
potentially blame some of that on coming back from the injury the year
Well,
before.
he also had Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson, though. Like, we
True.
can't scoff at
True.
two really, really good wide receivers like that, and now he's going to DK Metcalf and this weird situation in Pittsburgh where they're just always a defensive team. So, I'm excited to see Aaron Rodgers, but I don't think it's gonna go that well for him.
Yeah, I agree. We both like Metcalf at his cost, but I really don't think I could put him anywhere in the top 15 even, let
I just
alone
think
top
there's better
12.
bets for even, like, top 12. Like, I think Cortland Sutton has a higher chance of finishing as a top 12. Even if I would maybe rather have DK at cost, I think Sutton has a higher chance of finishing as a wide receiver one like that. Zay Flowers, if those
Mhm.
2 guys just end up proving to be really good wide receivers, their offenses could just be so much better that they just
Right.
inevitably are better.
It's the offenses being better. Like Sutton's upside is him catching 12 touchdowns. Like that's the way that he would hypothetically get into the top 12 is
Yeah.
if he catches that many touchdowns. So I feel like the same goes for DK. For him to get in that range, DK is never going to be a guy that's going to catch 100 passes on the season, but he could score 10 plus touchdowns if everything worked out. Like he is that type of player. So
100%.
definitely, like DK this year, but I do think that's a pretty hot take. I'm not with that one. Another one, very interesting, but personally, I am not with it. Justin Fields, top 5 fantasy quarterback this year. Again, I'll let you start on this one.
Oh, Justin Fields, man. It's the Jets. If it were any other organization than the
Right.
Jets, I
Mhm.
think I would be totally in on this, but because I'm just not a fan of their coaching staff in general right now, I just think they're going to try to be a defensive team as always, and they're going to try to let Justin Fields kind of do his thing, and I think that's the biggest problem. I think you have to give him as much structure as possible and like really try to organize what he is actually capable of athletically. And I think they're just going to let the reins loose, and I don't think it's going to go very well. I'm not happy with how the Jets run their organization in the first place. And so I just don't think that Justin Fields is going to finish that high, even though on a weekly basis, he will find himself as a top
Sure.
5 quarterback every
Sure.
so often.
Of course, I mean, the weekly upside is there. He could go out there and have 100 rush yards and 2 rushing touchdowns and have an absolute great day, but I think on a week-to-week basis, we both don't like this Jets team. Like, this Jets offense in specific, I think is gonna be one of the worst in the NFL, and so a lot of people's arguments for Justin Fields being in the top 5 or being a really good quarterback is the fact that he's gonna rush for a lot of yards. But there are a lot of quarterbacks that are going high in drafts right now that are gonna run this year. You have, Drake May and Bo Nix, who are quarterbacks going outside the top 5 right now that have a lot of rushing upside. You, of course, have, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen in the top 5 that are all gonna be heavy
Mhm.
rushing quarterbacks. So when you have all those guys who are significantly better passers of the football and are in better offenses, I just can't see a way that Fields beats that value unless he somehow puts on a clinic throwing the ball.
The Jets have a lot of pieces though. And I mean, if he is,
Who
because he can,
though? Who
well,
outside
they
of
have Garrett
the
Wilson,
receiver
they
core?
have Brees Hall.
Okay, but
And
like,
I think they have a solid offensive line. I don't think it's gonna be
yeah.
debilitating this year. So, well,
No,
I
I
mean,
like the O-line. The O-line is good, and they got Membu at 7th overall.
yeah.
So they definitely have been building it, but outside of Garrett Wilson, I was actually listening to this on another podcast. I mean, who's the next guy up? You might have like Arian Smith out of Georgia.
Well, it's
Mason
definitely gonna
Taylor.
be a workshop. Yeah, they're hoping
Yeah,
that it's Mason Taylor. I mean, he's unfortunately was injured for some of training camp, but I think he's ramping back up into things, and he's, like, guaranteed the starting tight end job already. My question is just, I mean, this is probably the most secure job that Justin Fields maybe has ever
sure.
had other than his, like, back when he was with the Bears, but
Right.
so I'm excited to see him play the full season. I mean, we got cut short a little bit in Pittsburgh, and he was definitely very fantasy relevant. I mean,
Yeah.
top 5 is just really high.
Yep. That's the issue. Is it's just top 5 is too high because there are rushing quarterbacks, like I mentioned. There are a lot of other ones that are going to be better passer of the football. And I think if the Jets are a bottom 5 offense, the touchdown opportunities are going to be limited. The overall opportunities are going to be limited. And if the Jets are going down in games, you're not just going to be able to run the ball the entire time. You're going to have to
Yeah.
throw the ball downfield. You're going to have to, make the defense do something else. And teams are just going to start putting QB spies on fields if he can't prove to make throws downfield or even
Quarter
intermediate passes.
I mean, yeah, definitely. Quarterback is just way too deep for me this year.
Yeah.
Like in general, for me to want to invest in Justin Fields because the way they, I mean, you were listing off guys that are just rushing quarterbacks, but we can go, I mean, deep into these drafts where you've got guys like CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy, all these
Mhm.
guys going way later than Justin Fields, Jared Goff, Michael Penix, like
Right.
all these guys that I feel like have just as high upside on the entirety of the season. Maybe not as high weekly upside, but just that confidence that I have in those other players, especially in like the guys like Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray,
Mhm.
like these guys that I think can have just as high upside throughout the whole season as Justin Fields, but they're just so much safer of picks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like Kyler at all. Like, I never like Kyler, but Kyler goes, 1 or 2 slots,
Yeah,
one,
he's ahead.
maybe 3 slots higher than Justin Fields at this point. And Kyler Murray is going to provide very similar, maybe less rushing upside, but
We'll say.
passing the ball, he's going to be significantly better. And the offensive weapons are going to be way better in Arizona. So I just can't see a way, like you said, with how deep the quarterback position is, that Fields is going to end up being the guy that gets inside the top 5 with how bad the Jets will be. So I think we're both in agreement on that one. That one can't really see it happening. Ashton Genty, running back 1, is our next hot take. And I'll start on this
Yeah,
one.
get on this one.
I'll start on this one because I'm actually going to say that I just don't think it can happen. I really do like Ashton Genty. And I had a little bit of a streak with him where I was very high on him, and I was saying, confidently that I'd put him in that tier of elite running backs. But I just don't know, again, similar to the Jets, if the offense can be good enough. I think the Raiders' biggest issue this year is that they're going to get completely game scripted out of the run. And then on top of that,
Mhm.
their defense is so bad that teams are just going to be running the ball on them and going on these 5 to 7 minute drives consistently, where if, a team goes out there, has 1 6-minute drive, scores a touchdown, and the Raiders go 3 and out, or even, there's after they get one first down, they punt, then the team goes on another 5-minute drive, and all of a sudden it's the next quarter, and you have one touch for Ashton Genty in that time frame. And so that's the biggest issue for me is I
Ugh.
think that Genty will get the snap share, and I think he's a great player, but I just don't know if the team is good enough to produce him as the running back 1.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you make some really great points where it's
Mhm.
like, I also just think that they're in a tough division. They're going to have a
Right.
lot of
Mhm.
tough games. I mean, I see them having 6 genuinely hard games for running the ball. Like, just there is going to be some crazy defenses that they have to play. But he definitely can finish as the running back 1 overall. I mean, he is an electric prospect. If he's able to take this team on his back, if the Raiders make the playoffs, like he would have to be, I mean, obviously a top 5 running back, but he's already being drafted up there. So he can definitely finish as the RB1 overall because all he has to do is catch enough passes in
Right.
combination. Like if Geno Smith is really able to take this offense up a notch, at least, because I don't think they're going to get worse as an offense. And it really is the defense, like you were saying, but also a bad defense could help fantasy points for their offense if they're like, I don't think necessarily a passing script is bad for Ashton Genty because I don't think they're
No,
going
I
to take
agree.
him off the field.
Right, right. The snap share is going to be the high. I mean, I recorded the Raiders video for the 32 team series right before this episode, and I talked about it with like the game script being good because Genty should be a candidate this year to have 50 or 50, 55 plus receptions.
I
The
mean, maybe
reports,
more. I would
yeah,
suspect him to
totally.
have to at least gain, almost a 15% target share if he can because they only have Bowers and Jacoby Myers and then maybe Dante Thornton as a deep threat.
Yeah, well, of course, the receivers are always going to get targets no matter who's out there. There's going to be somebody. And I think with Genty, we know that the receiving ability is there, but he just didn't prove it in college. That's the only issue of, in my head, what could be blocking the
I mean, you
actual.
have to throw your running back the ball,
No, I
especially like
understand. I
Geno Smith.
understand, but his career high receptions in college in a single year was 23.
It's a
So
totally different game. Like, they're playing the kind of football that Boise State was playing is not, "Let's dump it off to the running back." It's just, "Let's hand him the ball so that he can run and not get tackled." In the NFL, it's gonna be a lot more about getting him in plus situations and positive, opportunities and good chances to actually develop and score points, and, I mean, he's gonna he's gonna put up fantasy points, so why couldn't he be the running back one?
I just, like I said, I just don't know if the offense will be good enough. I don't know if they'll be on the field enough. I don't know if they're going to score enough touchdowns. Like, because we're
Yeah.
comparing
How
him to
many
other
touchdowns
running
does he
backs.
have to
Like,
score?
is he going to be able to outscore Saquon Barkley on that Eagles offense, or Jameer Gibbs in the
Oh,
Lions
yeah.
offense, or
I mean, he's gonna have to
Bijan on the Falcons?
he'll have to score, 17 touchdowns at least
Right.
probably. So,
Exactly. Which is like, could I see him scoring 10 plus 100%? Like, he
yeah.
could easily get in the end zone, when they get in the red zone, and I think they will score touchdowns. But again, it's the receiving. The receiving is going to be the biggest thing for Genty and how high his ceiling goes. Because I'm with you. I think he will be a good receiving back, but again,
Mm.
he just has never proven. There are running backs out in college were good receiving backs, and Genty was not a good receiving back in college. That's all I'm saying.
Yep,
So,
Genty, terrible running back,
yeah,
horrible player, don't draft him in your fantasy leagues, never.
but I do think this hot take does have some validity to it. It's just, I think it could be tough with how bad the Raiders offense could be. And that, to
Yeah.
me, is, again, bad offenses are always it's gonna be hard to be the top running back if you're on a bad offense. It's always gonna end up being a team that has, I mean, again, Saquon Barkley last year, RB1, Gibbs, RB2, two best offense in the NFL last year. So I think it does come down to a lot of kind of team stats for those running backs. Next hot take that we got on the board
Yeah.
here is that there will not be a single rookie tight end to finish within the top 10 fantasy tight ends. Now, I wouldn't say this is crazy hot, because really the only one that goes inside the top 10 is Warren, and he goes at kind of the 9 or 10 range. But of course, Loveland's around the 10 to 15 range. And then you have a bunch of other guys with Arroyo, Ferguson, Harold Fannin, Mason Taylor, who are all going in the 20s or 30s that, are relevant players. So I'll let you go on this one. What do you think about this?
I I'm kinda split. I don't think this is gonna happen, or I do think this is gonna happen. I don't think that both of them or that either of them finish inside of the top 10 this upcoming season. Now, I'm all about them in, like, a best ball format where you're not trying to pick weeks and start these guys and figure out, and you can kinda take the upside and cling on to those rookie tight ends as
Mhm.
they could be really, really good, and they genuinely are both amazing players. Like, for best ball and dynasty, I think they're in incredible situations that you should definitely invest in, and you're gonna see a lot of value that you attribute throughout time in their careers. But this year, redraft, I'm just not gonna trust the Indianapolis Colts offense.
Right.
I can't trust them, and the Bears have way too many mouths to
Mhm.
feed for me to think that he can be a top 10 tight end, because we're gonna see a lot of tight ends become relevant out of nowhere this year. I mean, I expect guys like Brenton Strange to see higher
Mhm.
target shares than both of those rookie tight ends. I expect David Njoku to, obviously, like Tucker Kraft. I think all of those tight ends, even though they have less upside, so they're might be going later than those rookie tight ends, I just think they're guaranteed a bigger role in their offense that
Mhm.
you have no clue what Colston Loveland's gonna be able to get, and we have no clue if Anthony Richardson can support a top 10 player at any position on their team.
For sure. And I would throw Jake Ferguson into that mix too, as another guy that I
Yeah,
really like that could enter
guaranteed
the top,
role.
10 to 12 coming off an
Kyle
extension. But
Pitts,
Kyle Pitts too is just another name that could
all of
end up,
them.
sneaking into the top 10. But
Even
obviously,
Mike Gesicki, like, I feel
yeah,
more confident in his role in their offense than Colston Loveland right now.
Yeah, see, I was really anti Loveland for a while, and from what I have seen, it looks like that they are playing him fully
He's so
over
good.
Fournette at this
Yeah.
point, so that does bode well for him. But like you mentioned, there's just so many mouths to feed, so I don't think that Loveland can be a top 10 option unless the Bears offense just takes a massive step this year, which is why
It
I
has
agree
to
with
run
you.
through him, though.
No, but if Caleb Williams has a great year and Loveland's the starting tight end, then Loveland could easily finish inside the top 10. But I think that,
Yeah.
if we're looking at the actual expectation of this Bears offense, it's that it's going to improve from last year, but it's not going to be a top 5 offense. And I think if they're a
Right.
top 5 offense, that's where Loveland has that potential because he could catch 8
Yeah.
touchdowns and could have a ton of receptions.
I mean, 8
But
touchdowns is guaranteed top 10 season, I feel like. I feel like you only have to
yeah.
realistically, to get in the top 10, I feel like you only have to score 6 or 7 touchdowns, put
Mhm.
up maybe 6 or 700 yards even.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. It's, tight end position
So,
is weak, but it is improving, and there's a lot more
yeah,
talent in the tight end position nowadays.
yeah.
But I think Warren is the one guy that could definitely break this. I like Warren a lot as a prospect. I think that he is going to be from the get-go the best option on this Colts offense when it comes to the receivers and the tight ends. And so I do think that he could walk into a very, very high target share. Like I think his target share could be around 20 to 24%,
It
which
just
would
might not
be
matter.
it just might not matter. That's the question is how bad are the Colts going to be this year, which is the common theme among a lot of these takes that we've discussed so far is that these offenses that we're discussing are just so bad that it's hard to see these players doing well. But I think that if Daniel Jones starts for a lot of the season, I think Warren could
Yeah.
easily be a candidate for, 80 catches on the season, which could definitely propel him inside the top 10.
I mean, that's what's gonna happen. It's gonna be for Warren, it's gonna be he's a PPR machine.
Right.
In
Volume.
PPR
Yeah.
leagues, I am definitely much more confident in Tyler Warren
Mhm.
joining that group because I don't think either of them are gonna score 7 touchdowns. Last year,
Yeah.
the tight end 10 was Tucker Kraft. He finished with 7 touchdowns and 707 yards. So,
Yep. Okay.
I don't think either of them get 700 yards either, honestly, because I just don't think that they might feed Tyler Warren the ball and they might give him a lot of low depth of targets, but I don't think that he's going to be accumulating a lot of yards with those receptions.
Right. Obviously Bowers is the main example last year. He is a much better player than Warren, but Warren is a really good prospect and he goes first round. And the Colts don't have a proven guy in their offense right now outside of Jonathan Taylor. So I
Yeah,
do like Warren's volume and I do think that he is the higher upside option out of all of these tight ends. And that's not a hot take at all. He is the highest ranked guy, but I do think that Warren kind of rests on that borderline top 10 range. But I made a take not recently, but like a month ago that he could be a top 5 tight end. And
definitely.
that's just straight up based off, like we said, the volume. And this is all full PPR, what we're discussing in these redraft leagues. But there is a chance in my eyes that he goes for 85 catches for 900 yards and like 2 touchdowns or something like that. And that is a lot, and it does rely on Jones, I think, starting more games than Richardson. But I do think he will be the top option on this offense, and he'll be, more importantly, the safety blanket of this passing offense in Indy.
I could definitely see him getting that many catches for sure in
Mhm.
the 80s. I mean, last year Zach Ertz had 91 targets. I
Right.
definitely think that Tyler Warren and he's going to be the focal point. He has to be. If this
Mhm.
Colts offense is going to be good, it's got to run through Warren and Jonathan Taylor.
Of course, for absolutely. That was a good one right there. The next one, Travion Henderson, top 8 fantasy running back. I will start
Ooh,
out on this one, and I
ooh,
will say I do not like this
mm.
at all. Could I see it happening? There is a chance. Like he has the potential to do that, but personally, I just don't see it happening. I think that what we've seen historically with Josh McDaniels offenses is that you definitely see a two-man backfield. So I think Ramondre will definitely be in the mix, at least in the first half of the season. And of course, Travion could take over and be significantly better, and they start feeding him toward the second half of the season. But it also just kind of begs the question where with Travion, he's probably right now one of the biggest risers in fantasy football due to, training camp and the preseason performances that he's had. But I try to separate sometimes, individual plays from what it looks like on a season-long outlook. And again, the biggest issue I had with Travion, if there was an issue with him coming in, was can he handle that full workload for an entire season? Because he didn't ever really do that in college. He had a couple injuries. He wasn't necessarily fed, as much as a lot of people think he will be in the NFL. And so I think, especially as a rookie here, that's where I have the kind of the question mark here, is that he could be really efficient, catch a lot of passes, but I just don't know if he's going to get enough volume and the Patriots will be good enough for him to be in the top 8.
Wow. I really am starting to believe that Travion Henderson is guaranteed to have, 45, 50 catches this season.
I think
And
so.
to me,
Yeah.
that's really raising his floor, which is why I think we're seeing his ADP just skyrocket right now, where people are getting him in the middle of the 4th round and early 5th round now at this point in some formats. And it's getting to be a hefty price to pay. But when it comes to the PPR format, I really think he might finish inside of the top 8. And
Oh,
definitely, I think he's going to be a running back 1. I definitely think he's going to be a top 12 running back in the PPR format. And I don't think it's crazy to say that he would be a top 8, because I think the running back landscape as it is going to be so dependent on which teams are good and which teams are playing well this year. And as I'm looking through these teams and looking through the Patriots and watching them play, I'm getting more and more excited. Now, I'm not a big fan of their wide receiver core, but I think Drake May showed us a lot of talent that is going to be used with Travion Henderson, Stephon Diggs. I'm excited for what they can bring to the table. And if they're in passing script games because they're just constantly getting beaten, I still think that bodes well for Travion and raises his floor.
no, his floor is definitely raising a lot. I just don't know if the volume is going to be there for him to be in the top 8. Because, like, let's just compare who he would have to be over in order to be in the top 8, top 10. It's guys like Chase Brown, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, James Cook. Like, I just don't know if he
Yeah.
can be better than any of those players. I just can't. I don't know if I can do that with the volume that I'm expecting him to get this season.
I think he can easily finish higher than like a James Cook for sure, because James Cook was only on the field for 40 to 50% of the snaps still last season. Even though he scored a lot of touchdowns, he wasn't even on the field that much, and we're going to see a lot of touchdown regression from that. If Travion Henderson only plays, Travion Henderson is probably only going to play 55, 60% of the snaps and that would be very good. I would be really happy with that
If he
because
played 60% of
Ramondre,
the snaps,
yeah,
that would be
it's going to be
unreal.
awesome.
That would be
Right.
unreal if he
I
did
mean,
that.
Ramondre is gonna be probably guaranteed all the goal line work, and unless tr that's only Travion has to become a actual star in the NFL, and under that idea, he's definitely going to be a top 8 back. If Travion Henderson is going to come out and be a star in the NFL, like he's already showing in these preseason games with his kickoff return touchdowns, he's got elite speed, and
He
obviously
does, he
there's
does.
preseason, but
Hey, look, man,
if
yeah.
we see that week 1, he's gonna earn that job real quick, the whole 60%. So,
Look, man, Henderson was the first player that I did the fantasy film breakdown on.
yeah.
I'm very, very high on him as a player, but again, it's just like I don't know if the workload is gonna be there this year. Like, are you really expecting him to touch the ball 15 plus times a game? Because if it's not 15 plus, I just don't think he can finish in the top 8.
I think he can play just as much as, like, Achane and get the same amount of touches, be a similar style player in their offense in New England. I don't think they have to use him all that much for him to be really fantasy relevant.
No, I agree. Well, fantasy relevant though in top 8 is very different in my eyes. I don't know. It's definitely possible. Like I said at the start, like
I could just
potential, I
totally
can
see
see
him
it.
getting I
I
can
can
see
see it.
him scoring 10 plus touchdowns.
Oh, I don't
Like, I
know. I'm not as high on the Patriots. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of hype there, but I still think they're a year away from being I think they'll be average this year. I think they'll be an average
Right.
offense. I
They
think
might
they
be a
can.
year away. They might need another wide receiver, but I think this is a perfect opportunity where he has to be their focal point, because when they get another wide receiver, sure, they could be better, but we might just start seeing more mouths to feed. I think they really have to dive into Travion Henderson's pass catching ability right now. And so
Yeah.
I think that's the guarantee of 2025 is their pass catching. So the
Mhm.
question is can Travion Henderson be top 8? It's going to come down to touchdowns. It's
Right.
definitely going to come down to
Yep.
how many
100%.
touchdowns does Ramondre steal this year. If Ramondre has 5, 6 touchdowns, then Travion Henderson is probably not going to be a top 8 running back. But if he keeps Ramondre down to 2, 3 touchdowns, we could see Travion upwards of 9, 10, 11 touchdowns, and then he could easily be a top 8 back.
Yeah. Oh, well, if he scores 10 plus, I think then it's easily there. But I personally don't think he's scoring 10 touchdowns this year. I'd be shocked if that happened. But it'll be interesting to see Henderson. Again, he's a really good player and a really efficient player, high IQ. And I think
Yeah.
that
He's
he
no
will make the
Marion
most.
Hampton.
He will make the most out of his touches, but top 8, I think the volume I do not think the volume will be there, but it'll be interesting to see with that Patriots team, one of the more intriguing ones of this year. We got a couple more here. Let's go into the next one. Jerry Jeudy will yet again be a top 12 fantasy wide receiver. What do you think about this one?
No, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the Cleveland Browns in general. Who's going to be playing quarterback? I think Jerry Jeudy could be good for the start of the season. I think with Joe Flacco for a few weeks, he could be pretty solid. But unless Shedeur Sanders is the real deal, no hate to Shedeur out there. I don't want any, don't come after me for hating on Shedeur. People getting a lot of heat for hating on Shedeur Sanders after playing so well in the preseason game, earning himself some more reps, against with the backups. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Did you see Dylan Gabriel's chirp at him, or supposedly that some people are playing for entertainment and others are playing to compete?
I mean, yeah, if I was Dylan Gabriel, I'd be doing the same thing. I mean,
Oh,
he's
come
got to he's
on.
got to kind of stand up for himself here, but
You in on Judy?
I am in on Judy. I don't know about top 12 because it's the same. It's the same thing. It's like you're talking about the top 12 receivers. Like, is Jerry Judy going to be better than a guy like Drake London or AJ Brown? Like, it's just so hard to see that
That's
happening.
yeah, no.
But
Mhm.
Jerry Judy right now going in the early 30s of receivers. I could easily see him finishing inside the top 20. I think last year he proved that he is a very talented receiver, and I don't want to
Is he?
compare him at all to Calvin Ridley, but I think it's almost a similar situation where I think he's by far the most talented option on this offense, and he will see a
Is
25% target share. So I could easily see him going this year for 70 catches. I think he'll go over 1,000 yards. And I think the touchdowns will be the low point where he'll only score probably 4, maybe 5 touchdowns. But I think he will be a good receiver this year. And I think from what I've seen out of training camp, from what I saw last year, like I think he's a good enough receiver to produce. And his route running, which is the biggest thing that propelled him into the NFL as a first round pick, I think has been on full display. And that's why I just always love the route runners because I'm confident that they can always get open.
Man, I really don't like this one. I think you're crazy for this because if they're not very good, and first of all, I don't think Jerry Jeudy's the best player in their offense anyways, the
Who's the
best
best
pass catcher.
player?
I think David Njoku is
Oh,
100% better for sure, I think, and I also think that he's a better mismatch. He's more involved in the red zone. And I think that Jerry Jeudy's going to struggle when he's playing all these number one corners. He's finally going to get some attention. All of his fantasy points came in one game last year against some
mm,
random team like the Denver Broncos, or I don't even remember that game, but I think the Broncos won that one anyways. So
I
he's
mean,
not going
look,
to
at the
though.
end
There's
of the
no
day,
way.
I like Jerry Jeudy. I agree. I don't think he'll finish top 12, but I would not be shocked if he finished within the top 20. I think he's a talented
No.
player, and the offense isn't going to be any worse than it was
They're
last
gonna be
year.
super run heavy. I think they're yeah,
Are they?
I think they definitely will be worse if they put Trout out a rookie quarterback, 2 rookie quarterbacks. If they switch their quarterbacks 3 or 4 times in 2025, Jerry Jeudy's not gonna be top 20 wide receiver.
Okay, but I'm not assuming they're going to be doing that. I think
I
they'll flip
100% am. There's
probably.
no way they have 2 first-round picks next year. There is no way that they don't let Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders both not see the field, or either one of them see the field at least once.
I think one of them will probably see the field, and one
And
of the
you
best
just think they're
will
the
be.
man then? You just think whoever they pick is gonna be a great quarterback?
I'm not saying they'll be a great quarterback, but again, like look at who they had last year. They also had multiple quarterback switches last year, and they weren't a good offense last year. So I don't think that they can be any worse than they were last year. Like I
They
don't
had
see the
Jerry Jeudy had
situation.
Jameis Winston, though.
He has Joe Flacco, and the next best option is Shador, who's also a gunslinger. Like I don't think either of those, Joe Flacco or Shador, are bad options for Judy. They're pocket passers that can air the ball out.
I'm not saying they're necessarily terrible options, but they're not good quarterbacks yet. So we have no clue. Like I'm not gonna put any faith in Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel to help Jerry Jeudy produced for fantasy. I don't think Jerry Jeudy is going to be able to get that open this year. I don't think he's a very good wide
Ooh,
receiver. And now, like, he was a
that's
wide receiver 2 on the Broncos. He was facing cornerback 2s, and he still couldn't get open.
this is
Now
this
he's a
is
wide
the
receiver.
Broncos hate coming out
No,
right now.
it's
This is
not.
the fact that
It's
he
not
left the
because he's
Broncos and
solid.
then he
He's
torched
okay.
you
He's not
guys,
that
and then
bad.
he torched you
No,
guys
he's
when he
not.
played you
Jerry
last
Jeudy.
year, when you had quote unquote the best
Bro,
secondary, and then he
Jerry
torched
Jeudy's
you
not
guys.
that bad, but he's not gonna be top 20 this year. With that many quarterbacks that they have and no direction on
I
offense,
agree
I
with you
can't
that
see it happening.
If Dylan Gabriel starts, he's not really a field stretcher quarterback. I don't think that would be the worst situation. But if Shador is starting, if Shador had gone first round or early second round to the Browns, you'd probably be
Out.
hyped. You'd
Out.
probably be hyped up. You'd be
I'd be
like,
OUT,
oh my God. Shador is a
bro.
good pocket passer. That's all I'm gonna say. He had 37
I
passing
think Shedeur
touchdowns
could be
last
pretty
year.
good in the NFL, but I'm just gonna have to wait and see on this Jerry Jeudy in the Browns offense kind of thing right now. It's not an exciting investment to make in fantasy football. You're gonna be disappointed a lot when they play 3 quarterbacks in one football game and Jerry Jeudy only has 2 catches.
I mean, if they ever play 3 quarterbacks in one game without an injury, I will personally do some type of punishment because that is not gonna
Do
happen.
preseason games count?
No. 'Cause I don't even think Jerry Judy's playing in those games. But either way, we'll see about Jerry Jeudy. I like him. I think he's a good receiver. And from what I've been seeing, they're saying that he looks great right now and the only viable receiver that they have. But let's move on to the next take. It
Cedric
is that
Tillman?
Tet McMillan is not going to be the Panthers' highest scoring fantasy
Come
receiver this
on.
year.
Adam Thielen?
So I think Thielen, we got Jalen Coker, and Leggett
Jalen
would be the
Coker.
3 other options that could
This is
be. So
insane.
what do you think about
Who's
this one?
whose hot take is this? Who are you? You're not a brainiac. No way. Ted McMillan, well, he's gonna be the best wide receiver. They plan
Yeah.
everything. They're planning everything around him in Carolina. Like I thought that they would choose him 9th overall. That was a nice call out pre-draft, and they went for it because it just fits so well. Like Bryce Young needed his guy. He needed a wide receiver to help develop with him. They're going to be a great tandem. I'm not worried about Tedero McMillan really at all right now. I think he's a fine wide receiver to draft at cost, and he's going. I mean, is he going 10 rounds before the next wide receiver is drafted in their offense?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
Okay, there's
he's
no way
going in
that
that
anyone.
middle, that kind of range with those other receiver twos that we talked about, like in
Yeah,
the 20s of
right,
receiver.
right.
Um,
Unless he gets injured,
yeah.
there's no way that he's not the
Well,
number
no,
one
of course.
target.
Injuries are always, I mean, that's of
But
course he gets injured.
you genuinely could see a way that T-Mac is not the number one target in this offense?
No, I was gonna say I don't think it will happen. I don't
Yeah.
like T-Mac, but I just don't know if any of the other guys are good enough. I would
Yeah,
say
maybe
this.
next season.
I think if Adam Thielen could stay healthy the entire season, I think
Ooh,
he could because
okay.
he's actually has been great with Bryce Young when he's on the field. And that's been proven in Bryce Young's first 2 seasons that he actually is good. But
But,
Thielen
like, that's
playing
also
full.
because, like, they didn't really have anyone else too.
That's true. But Bryce Young does like the slot receiver, which is why
I can
because
play
he's
in
a
the
short
slot.
quarterback, so it does help having the guys that are a little bit closer to him over the middle of the field. And so I don't see it happening because I think the snap shares of these other 3 receivers are going to be too inconsistent of who's on the field. And Ted is going to have
Yeah.
that guaranteed role where he has guaranteed touches going towards him. And honestly, I'm not drafting him at his price. I don't think the Panthers are going to be some crazy team this year. I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be all right.
But
You know,
this
that
is a
they
silly hot take.
yeah, it's crazy because none of the other options are really good enough to be better than him. Like if they had a more legitimate receiver too, I think you could, maybe make that take
Yeah.
that that receiver's better. But of anything, I like Jalen Coker the most on this team to be the second best
Huh,
receiver, and I
okay.
just still think his time is not coming yet until Adam Thielen's gone. So I think Tet, regardless of how you feel about him, he's gonna get those goal line fades
Yeah.
similar to Mike
I
Evans, where there's gonna be guaranteed touches for him.
I think there's a lot of teams this year, though, where we'll see maybe the second drafted wide receiver in their team overtaking the first wide receiver this year. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens for the Chicago Bears. If somebody outproduces DJ Moore, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If Emeka Egbuka outproduces like Mike Evans, I wouldn't even be
Yeah.
surprised about like the Dolphins. If we see like Jalen Waddle outscore Tyreek
Yeah.
Hill. I
I
mean,
mean, yeah,
Jameson Williams
those
and
are
Amon
all like
Ra. I think those are good
mm,
opportunities for a wide receiver 2 in an offense to I mean, only one of them can get the ball. Jameson, you like get a little look on your face when I say Jameson Williams outscore Amon-Ra, but it's just like if Jameson Williams catches a deep touchdown, that's worth more than 4 catches that Amon-Ra might have. So
I mean, Jameson Williams outscoring Amon-Ra would be nuts.
what?
I cannot see that happening. But
I think I just heard a brainiac say that.
closer. The guys are closer in ADP. So yeah, I could definitely see those situations with the Dolphins and the other ones that
Right?
you named.
Ricky
But
Pearsall and Juwan Jennings. I guess Ricky's
yeah,
going ahead of
okay.
Juwan right now, though.
Is
Who
he?
knows though? Yeah, I think because Juwan's injured right now.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. They're going to be the one. Like they play 2 receivers, so they're not gonna. It's not going to really matter who's 1, who's 2. They'll
Torrey
both get on the
Horton
field.
coming up as the wide receiver 1 for the Seattle Seahawks.
No,
Come
but I
on.
do like
it if
like
Cooper
Torrey
Kupp's
Horton.
dead.
But
Yeah, I like
you're
the
telling me he's going to be better than
opportunity.
JSN this year?
Yeah, I offered all my fab for the whole season today for Torrey Horton.
Yeah, that's
He
not a
didn't
very
he
good
didn't
deal.
take it.
I offered a better player than that for him. So
Well, I
I
also
definitely.
offered Keaton Mitchell on top, but he's meh.
Yeah, that's not too great. But yeah,
Come
Ted
on, what'd you
McMillan. I
offer?
think that's some disclosing or some undisclosed
Bruh.
information. But Ted McMillan, I think is definitely going to be the Panthers' highest scoring receiver, despite how you feel about him. But let's get on. We got our second to last take here. Keenan Allen to be a top 30 receiver in fantasy this year. What do you think about this one?
Okay, Keenan Allen's peripherals looked pretty good last season, honestly.
Mhm.
He was pretty good with the Chicago Bears. I mean, he got a decent target share. He was a pretty good yards per route run. He was pretty successful just as a route runner still. He's
Yeah.
not as prime Keenan anymore, but he's still a crisp route runner, and he knows this offense. He knows Justin Herbert. Like I see it working solidly. I don't think it's crazy that he would finish as a top 30 wide receiver. Obviously, they're going to try to get their young bloods the ball, but I mean, Keenan Allen can be a leader here and still go out and catch, 60 passes on the season, maybe.
Yes. I don't know if 60 passes gets you into the top 30 receivers, though. That's the only
Really?
problem. No,
Oh my
it's not.
God.
I mean, unless you
Huh.
have like 1,000 yards and
How many catches did he have last season?
he had around 75, I think. He had
Okay.
around 75 catches for about 750
Yeah,
yards
700
and maybe
something.
like 5 to 6 touchdowns. I mean, he had a
Yeah,
good
he had
year.
120 targets. I think he can definitely reproduce with just less touchdowns.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, no. I
jeez,
mean,
he had 7 touchdowns and he finished at the wide receiver 36 last
mhm,
year.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's a
Man, it's gonna be
heavy
really hard
offensive
for him to
league.
be top 30.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, especially with I think my problem with it is what does this Chargers
He
offense
had
look like?
70. Huh.
Like, what does it look like with Ladd McConkey also being a really good slot receiver with Keenan Allen, and now you have Trey Harris and Quentin Johnson, who just had a concussion last night, and so that could be a question
Yeah.
mark now if he's going to miss any weeks. Because when they had all 4 of those receivers, I was pretty confused on how these snap shares were going to work out. But
Yeah,
it seems like
KLS, the deep ball threat too.
yeah, him too, of course, and it seems like to me Keenan Allen, the only way he
Huh.
could potentially hit this mark, and I think with Allen, you have to assume this is going to be on a points per game basis because he's good. He's going to be good to miss 3 to 4 games in the season at some point, due to some like ankle injury or something that he deals with every year. But if he can be the primary slot receiver and they just decide to move Ladd to the outside for this year, then I do think Keenan Allen has potential to get in there with how much Herbert loves the slot. We know what Allen did with Herbert in Herbert's younger years of his career and what Herbert did with Ladd last season. So it's tough to
Man,
be
you
top
are gonna
30.
wreck the Chargers in 2025.
What?
Ladd McConkey going down, I think that would be devastating for the Chargers.
No, not going down. I'm saying like going down in production a little bit.
Oh, really?
I'm saying going down, yeah, not getting injured, like going down in production a little bit because he
Huh.
he
I
could
feel
move
like
to
there's
the
enough to
outside.
go around though.
Maybe there is, but I'm saying compared to what Ladd had
Like,
last year where
I don't
it
think
was
Ladd's
just
gonna be
him
able
and
to get
QJ.
like, I think Ladd's guaranteed his role. I don't think it's gonna be a crazy role, but I think that's why they bring in a Keenan Allen because it balances so well. It was the thing that they were missing in their wide receiver core where they have these deep threats. They have Ladd, who's a great yak ability and can like I think you're conflating too much between Ladd and Keenan. I think they can work well together when they're both on the field.
I don't think I'm conflated at all. I'm just saying that both of them are primary slot receivers, and when you have 3 receivers on the field, only one guy can
Keenan
be a
can play
slot.
out wide just fine.
And I would say Ladd can play outside. Keenan is
They're
not
gonna
an
move around.
outside
They can
receiver.
both play in the slot. Like, I really don't care
They
if they're
can,
both
but
out
that's
there
gonna
in the
hurt
slot.
Ladd's value not playing in the slot as much as he did, in my
No, I'm
opinion.
saying they can both be out in the field at the same time, both in the slot.
No. Unless they're running 4 receivers, and I just
Yeah,
don't think that's
why
gonna
not?
happen.
They don't really
Maybe a
have a very
couple
good
plays.
tight end. They have Will Dissly and Aronde Gadsden. I think if they run like they also you don't have to you could change things up with your running backs. I think you'll be surprised at how you see the Chargers offense come out. Like they're a run heavy team. I wouldn't be surprised if they run like 2 slot wide receivers and a tight end a lot, and then they have their running back. And so they're in like a condensed formation.
Well, no,
It,
that's different. That's not anybody really in the
but I
slot. That's
think they
just
can run a
2
really good
receiver
play
set.
action out of that. And when you
Sure.
have Ladd and Keenan crossing, like Keenan can find the
Mhm.
soft spots and get open. And then when you do get Ladd the ball, he has the great yak ability. So I mean, I'm excited to see this Chargers offense. I don't like the Chargers, but I think they're going to be really good at offense this year.
No, I agree. I think they will be too. I just am a little bit worried with the mouths to feed coming in with Hampton, Keenan Allen, and
I
Trey
think they
Harris.
just work well. That's
That's
not
3
a big
new
fan of
mouths to feed.
QJ and
That's all I'm
stuff.
saying.
I think there's enough to go around. I think Ladd's guaranteed Ladd's going to finish, somewhere between wide receiver 10 and wide receiver 16. I think I have him pretty comfortably finishing in there. And I think that Keenan could then follow right up and just be solid behind him as the wide receiver 40 again, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I mean, that's for Ladd, that's kind of where he's being drafted, like the receiver
Right.
13.
Totally.
So that's fine. I think he will probably finish there as well, but I could see a situation where he has a little bit less than last year because of the added addition with Keenan Allen. And I just am worried that that ball could get spread around a
Right.
little bit
Keenan's
more than
old.
it did last year. I mean,
Keenan,
he's old, but yeah, as
Keenan
long
is
as he's on
not
the
stopping
field,
them from giving Ladd McConkey the ball.
I'm just saying there's more mouths to feed on this offense this year. There's going to be more guys that deserve touches. There's going to be more passes going to the running backs if Hampton's
Keenan
on the
does not
field.
care.
We'll see. We'll see. I like Ladd's talent a lot. I like him a lot as a dynasty buy if he has a lower season this year, but we'll have to see how those snap shares work out for that Chargers receiver room. But let's get on to our last hot take. And I don't like this one really at all, but Jaden Higgins to be the top rookie fantasy wide receiver. So I'll let you take the first crack at this one. What do you think?
There's a lot of really good fantasy wide receivers this year that are rookies. So that seems really, really difficult. I like Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State, and he might be able to catch some touchdowns, but I don't see Jaden Higgins having more than 50 catches in this year. That just seems really difficult for him.
Yeah, I mean, I like the
Like,
player profile. I think he's going to be a guy that has a high floor in a high volume pass offense. But from what I've been seeing in reports and looking at preseason, how the snaps have worked out, it seems like in the 2 wide receiver sets that it's going to be Nico Collins, of course, and it's going to be Christian Kirk. So
yeah,
right
like
now, if
they
Higgins,
just have the veterans,
right, that's what
and
I'm
they also have
saying.
Noel.
Right. Well, Noel's more of like a slot guy. So I think Higgins has his role on the outside. And right now
I
they're
think we
saying
might see Higgins play a little bit in the slot though too. I mean, if Kirk goes down, I think they're gonna
well,
have to bump him inside. Well, I don't expect Kirk to
no.
play every game this year.
Of course, but right now I'm just saying looking at the depth chart and what they've been saying, it looks like it's Kirk in the slot and
Yeah.
Noel is the backup slot guy, and then you have
Okay.
Collins on the outside and Higgins on the opposite side. But in 2 wide receiver sets, they're saying it's Nico and Christian Kirk right now are the top 2 guys every single time. So that does worry me a little bit for the stock of Jaden Higgins, who at one point was going in the late 40s, early 50s of receivers, like
Mhm.
around players like Emeka Ibuka, who I think have way more potential than or even like a Luther Burden that has more potential than Higgins this
Yeah.
season. So I
I
think
think I'm
Higgins
more about that
could
too.
I think Higgins could be like a player where he
Mhm.
scores like 6 touchdowns this year because he's a big body guy. He gets opportunities, but I think it's going to be really hard to predict when to start him, as at least when Christian Kirk is healthy. If Christian Kirk goes down and Higgins starts to get those snaps in the 2 wide receiver sets, then it does change a little bit. And Higgins does have a higher floor and higher upside at that point. But at least if everybody's healthy, I
Even
have a hard time seeing this happen.
even if Christian Kirk is injured, Jalen Noel injured, and Jaden Higgins is the guaranteed wide receiver 2 outside, do you even think then he's finishing as the top rookie wide receiver?
No, because
Like,
I don't think he can finish higher than Ibuka or Travis Hunter or even Golden at this point.
I
That
mean,
would be
Like McMillan. These guys are just
McMillan too.
guaranteed
Yeah.
bigger roles
Mhm.
and
Yep.
better players. Like at the end of the day, I'm just gonna invest
Yeah.
in those better players than Jaden Higgins.
I think Higgins is a good player for Dynasty. You play the long game with him. He could be
It's
locked
not gonna
into
be
a good
this year.
offense. It's not going to be this year.
Yeah, no
I'm
way.
fully with you on that one, but he is an interesting player and he did go high in the draft, a lot higher than people thought he would. So
Mm.
definitely going to be interesting to see how this Texans wide receiver room works out. But that is all the hot takes. Thank you guys for
Okay.
sending those in for us. It was a great time just debunking them and, getting ready for the season and kind of there's a lot of good offensive players this year in fantasy football. It seems like this is the
Feel the
most
heat.
hype that we've ever seen in my opinion, this is the most hype that
I
we've ever
love
seen
fantasy football.
for offense this year. That we've ever seen in the past, 10 to 15 years. So very excited to see what teams fold and what teams don't. So make sure to follow us on all of our social medias. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube and that bell so you can get notifications when we post episodes. Make sure to continue to tune into all of our episodes with the 32 team series and stay on the lookout for more content posted as the season comes along. But thank you everybody for listening. We'll see you next time and we're out.
3, 2, 1.
Got a blast!
Thanks for checking out the Fantasy Brains. Don't miss next week's episode, Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. See you next week, Brainiacs.